huge WWE departure has been revealed. We're also going to discuss some major plans for Jacob Fatu in the Bloodline. And yes, we are going to talk about Triple H shutting down major plans. It's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. Welcome back to the Ango Show. I, of course, am Ango. I want to kick things off with Jacob Fatu, who made a hell of a debut at WWE SmackDown last night. Obviously, if you guys watch this in real time, you know how impactful it was because this guy made an absolute huge statement. But there is something that needs to be said when it comes to discussing the debut of Jacob Fatu, and it's actually, where does he align with the Bloodline? Because he did throw his one up, but if you guys weren't paying attention, maybe you missed it. Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga also threw up the ones, and they were very surprised by the debut of Jacob Fatu. Now, clearly, we know that WWE is building a Bloodline Civil War storyline, but the real question here is, where does Jacob Fatu actually stand? There's a lot of rumors right now that speculates that maybe Jacob Fatu could actually be joining Roman Reigns as a babyface, and we might see a power struggle between him and Solo Sikoa, which could make a lot of sense. And honestly, I think WWE is planning for a major swerve at some point. If you think of Hikuleo coming in, who, by the way, is expected to have another name change, obviously The Rock's bloodline will be outmatching Roman's bloodline. So there is clearly something that is happening here, but Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, it's going to be really interesting to see if they coexist. And based on what we saw last night, it already seems like that seed has been planted. WWE has major plans for Jacob Fatu. They literally had him annihilate their top stars on WWE SmackDown. The crowd erupted, and this is one of those things where they just got it right. And I have to give credit where it's due, because sometimes things happen in pro wrestling where there might be a debut, there might be something happening on television, and the crowd maybe doesn't respond well to it, or the fans at home may have not responded well to it, more confused than ever. We all knew it was inevitable that Jacob Fatu would be joining the company, but we have to put out the fact that with Jacob Fatu now in the company and now being so impactful, there is clearly something very big going to happen. But again, it's all in the little details. This is one of the biggest reasons why I even favor long-term storytelling, because when Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga look at each other and they're throwing up those ones, it's almost like they didn't expect that. Like they didn't expect to see Jacob Fatu join. And clearly, on the heel side of the bloodline, there is going to be some friction, but the heel bloodline will be outnumbering the baby faces. And I think it's just a no-brainer that Sami Zayn, the Usos, and Roman all come together, but how will it all unfold? And then you got to factor in maybe whether or not Zilla Fatu or Lance Anoa'i join the company as well to maybe make things a little bit more even. But this is a storyline that is truly playing out every week. Paul Heyman clearly has concern with everything that is happening here. And you got to remember that they did tease that Roman Reigns isn't coming back, which obviously we all know at some point he will. While the Hurt Business was a very, very big, awesome faction of mine, it was a faction that I truly loved, it appears that Triple H does not love it, because MVP, he has said several times in social media that Triple H has shot down the reunion, and it looks like MVP isn't happy about this based on his responses, but I did want to talk about this for a variety of reasons. A lot of people thought that maybe Triple H would be the one to make the Hurt Business so much better than what it was under Vince McMahon, and quite frankly, I do think Triple H's way of booking and the way that he books factions, the fact that it's not actually been happening on TV was always a mind F. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just call it what it is. I never understood why the Hurt Business didn't come back. Now MVP, through a series of comments, is basically saying the new regime, old regime, it doesn't matter. They've said no, they shut it down, and it will never happen. It's disappointing. It's so disappointing considering how incredible it is to watch especially when we're watching WWE SmackDown and we see the Bloodline has the Civil War. We see on Raw the Judgment Day and now the Wyatt Six, and we see all of these different groups on WWE television, Damage Control, and WWE does a really fantastic job of booking their factions. And I always think, why the hell can't they do this with the Hurt Business? Triple H is against it. I don't know why Triple H is against it. Having Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander together as a tag team in the tag team division makes sense. Omos is not doing anything on television. You bring Omos into the Hurt Business for the simple fact that MVP was managing Omos, right? And by the way, WWE had made teases. They teased this on television. People are forgetting in the very early days of Triple H taking over Power, there was teases of Bobby Lashley and MVP getting good on terms again. And for some reason, they just never brought it together. And look, now if you fast forward, the Street Profits and B-Fab are with Bobby Lashley. And I like it and it's cool, but it doesn't seem like one of the more important things happening on television. So if you wanted to make everybody feel important, if you wanted to utilize more talent, you sign Cedric Alexander, or excuse me, Shelton Benjamin, you utilize Cedric Alexander, and you bring everyone together for one massive mega group. I don't understand how WWE doesn't do this. And look, you got Cedric Alexander and Ashanti the Adonis now tag teaming, but they're just kind of getting their feet wet with that. Just bring everybody together since everybody already has different affiliations. Sign Shelton, and then you could run the Hurt Business again. I don't know. To me, it sounds stupid, but it is what it is. Kayla Braxton has revealed on Twitter today that she is leaving the company after 8 years. Very shocking news. She is one of the best broadcasters in WWE. She's one of my favorites. She's very appreciative of WWE. If you guys want to read her statement, you guys can follow her at Kayla Becker. But I think the writing was kind of on the wall, right? She's no longer on the bump. She changed her name on social media. And in addition to that, Kayla is just such an incredible person. But listen, her contract hasn't been re-signed or anything like that. She wants to do other stuff. There is reported interest from AEW and other companies, and it makes sense for people to want to bring in Kayla Braxton. I think she's a hell of a talent. I really do think she's incredible. I don't know what it could be. I know Kayla has kind of battled with like dealing with trolls and shitty ass people in wrestling. So I don't even know if she's going to stick around in wrestling. But I will say that I think she is so incredibly talented, and the fact that she's leaving WWE sucks. I do. I think it sucks. I think the reason why it sucks is because if you watch Kayla Braxton on the bump or on the panels or backstage interviews with Paul Heyman or other talent, she was always elevating other people. She was always doing a great job of making whatever segment or whatever interview or whatever performer go over in a certain way. And I think when you have a backstage broadcaster in your company who can do that, she is a really good talent. Kayla is a hell of a talent to the point where, like, for the sake of just her being on TV, literally any wrestling company could benefit from her being there. I just don't know if she's going to be sticking around in wrestling. It is quite shocking, maybe even a little bit sad too, because of how awesome she is. But it is what it is. Nothing else I could really say about that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.